Well, in this video, I'm going to be showing you how to wrap these black lug ready for the freezer. This video is not suggesting this is the only way you do it. This is my own personal way of doing it. A lot of people do have different ways of doing things with the bait and bait preparation, stuff like that. I generally wrap it in newspaper. As you can see in this tub now, these lug have all been gutted. When I'm wrapping them, I'll explain why. This tub, this newspaper here has been changed 3 or 4 times. What I've tried to do is dry these worms out. When you've had them down the beach, you've washed them and everything, they are very wet. You can put down a whole newspaper, opened out, and it'll soak right through. This has been changed around 4 times through the whole day. These worms now are pretty dry. I find if you freeze them straight away, wrap them in paper, the wraps get sodden and they can break up while you're wrapping them. That's the number 1 issue. Number 2 issue, when you come to unwrap them on the beach, they will still be partly frozen if you're using them pretty quick. If you leave them too wet, it crystallises and you cannot get those wraps open. So you're better to get the worms as dry as you can. People use paper towels, kitchen roll, all sorts of things. Newspaper for me is free, so that's why I use newspaper. So what I'll do, move these over. I'm going to start wrapping these worms singly. So I get a sheet of paper, which you'll be seeing in a sec. I'll lay a worm in and I'll do a fold over it. I'll put another worm in and do another fold over it. Stops the worms touching. I'll get about 10 worms in the wrap and that'll be a big enough wrap for a session. Anyway, as you can see there, we've got a few black lug. That was from a night session I did, my first night session. Didn't find it easy at all, but yeah, that's the worm we got. There's some decent worm in there. Like I said, these have all been gutted down the beach. Some of you may know what that is, some of you may not know what it means. I'll explain as I'm wrapping them. So what I've done in that tray, as you could see, there's worms in there on newspaper. I did have newspaper also on top of them. I've done that roughly 4 times, and now these to me are dry enough. I've got normal newspaper here. Grab a worm, just like that. That is a gutted black lug, as you can see right there. This is probably a medium-sized one. You don't really want to take them much smaller than this. You have nursery beds and you have the main beds, the bigger ones down by the waterline. Try and keep it so you're taking the bigger worm and leave the smaller ones to grow. Right, I'm going to lay it in the paper, just like that. I'm going to fold over it once, keeping it tight to the worm. Fold again, just like that. I'll flatten down the ends, try and keep it like this, keep it tidy. Keep your finger on it, grab another worm, drop in another worm. Just like that, in the centre, and wrap over that worm. As you can see, doing it like this, none of the worms are touching. So when you come to unwrap it, these worms are not stuck to each other. Get another worm in. These worms are actually a bit smaller than I normally go for, but the better as a bait size, to be honest. The massive worms, you have to break them up and you struggle to fit them in the newspaper. I've actually lost count of how many worms I've got in there. I think it's 4. Generally, I'll put 10 in there. These are not for sale, they're for personal use, so if there's only 8 or 9, that's fine. But we'll say that's 5. What I'm doing there, look, is pulling the paper back, keep that wrap nice and tight. And this is basically it. This is the way you do it. Fold it over. It's up to you how neat you keep the wraps. They're your wraps. Makes no difference. Sometimes with smaller worms or broken worms, if I have any, I'll double them up. I'll have 2 worms in the wrap. So I'll have a worm there and a worm there. But these to me are fine. A lot of these will be used for my bream fishing. Off the boat, that is. It's a tough bait and I just like it. I think that's around 8. You'll probably re-correct me in the comments, but there we go, look. That turned out to be quite a chunky wrap now, it's quite good. I'd say that's 9, we'll give it 1 more and we'll call that 10. There's plenty in there for a session for me anyway. What I'll do now, fold the ends up. You'll feel where the worm is, to there. Fold it right up to the worm. Reason why, it's an indication of what size worm's in that wrap. Fold it over, and there you go. You've got a really neat wrap there. You can tape it if you want to, I don't bother. That's just the way it stays with me. Then we'll get on with the next wrap. The reason for gutting black lug down the beach, you see on a lot of videos, when they're full of the guts and you leave them full of guts and you come to bring them home to wrap them, if you don't store them in a little bit of water, seawater, they start to go like mush. Basically, you can see that is tough. I'm pulling on that. It's a tough bait. If you leave it with the guts in, by the time you get home, you give it a gentle pull like that and it'll just fall apart. They literally disintegrate. They basically rot almost instantly. So as soon as you pump it out the ground, you hold it in your hand like that. There's the tail, that's the head end. You sort of close a little finger, next finger, next finger, next finger, so on, and it pushes the guts up the body, and literally you pop them at the end. Get your thumb, push, it'll pop out the end. They'll be like a big long red stringy thing hanging out. Flick it off or pull it out and it's gutted. And that's the way you gut them, and that's the reason why you gut them. There is videos on my channel of me pumping and gutting the black lug, but to be fair, I don't think I've ever really explained why. And I do need to, really, because people don't understand why, and people need to understand why. It helps people learn. So I'm going to do the same again. Come along in the wrap, just like this, and we'll just do it again. We'll wrap another 10 up like this. As you can see, this worm here is a little bit small. I'll leave that one in, it'll be okay. So we've got 3 in there now. Then 4. Do that, pull it back. I try and keep it nice and tight. This video was requested by somebody, and I thought, why not put it up? Not everyone knows how to wrap the black lug. I know it sounds simple, but a lot of people salt the black lug, even put them in sawdust, even put them in sand. Personally, me, I don't, as you can see here. And these baits are good quality baits, and when you come down the shore to use them, or off the boat, you can unwrap them one by one and use them, and they come out the freezer like you put them in. There isn't any need for salting, especially with black lug anyway. Black lug is a tough bait. I have salted them. I don't really notice the difference, to be honest. So I don't bother salting them. Basically, I want to get on the beach, I want to pump my worm, and I want it simple and easy and quick. I don't want to be messing about with salt and more expense. I'm pumping this bait to keep it as cheap as possible for myself. So to start salting them, it's more time consuming, cost of salt, etc. We'll leave that wrap as that. It feels quite chunky. I haven't been counting because I'm chatting. Fold the ends over. Keep the wrap as tidy as you want. I like to keep it pretty tidy. And there we go. It's another good little wrap of black lug. We're going to carry on now. Basically just wrapping like this. And that's it. That's as simple as it is. Nothing complicated about it. As soon as I've wrapped them all, these will go straight into the freezer in the newspaper. I don't wrap them in cling film, nothing like that, as they are. Trust me, they are fine. You don't have to do it this way. Obviously, you can do it your own way. This way works for me, and it would work for you if you used it. So, what I'm going to do, carry on wrapping up these lug, and I'll see you in the next one.